Ooh, spooky. Bam! What's up, everybody? Peter McKinnon here. Welcome back to yet another video. Welcome back. We're talking about some creative photography techniques today and how to shoot some dope, underwater, out of the ordinary photos of anything, products, stuff, just cool shots in general, without having to use a housing or spend pretty much anything other than $50 on a fish tank. Couple of things to jump into before we get started. One, the audio sounds much better. Got sound panels installed since I last saw ya. Still don't have any furniture, still don't have anything on the walls. That'll make a massive difference, an area rug, those types of things. So, super fast backstory. Maybe 7 years ago now, again, photographing decks of cards for this job that I used to have. There was a particular deck that was water themed and I needed to take photos of this deck, wind, water, fire, and earth, and the water deck was the one I was doing. I wanted to get some shots of it splashing into the water, and I thought to myself, do I do it in a bathtub? A big Tupperware container? That plastic's not gonna work. I don't have a pool, it's the middle of winter. I don't have an underwater housing, I don't own that, they're too expensive. So we went to the local pet store, bought a fish tank, set up 2 strobes on either side, 2 actual like 580EX Canon flashes. And I had a wireless trigger on top of my camera. A wireless trigger is something that then talks to those 2 flashes to fire them remotely, wirelessly. A lot of wedding photographers use it, a lot of portrait photographers use it when they're shooting with flash out in the field. Should make a video about that, that'd be a great idea. I digress. That was my lighting setup for this. So I wanted to replicate something similar to share with you based on all the great feedback we had on last week's video with product photography and kind of the behind the scenes process on just how I shoot cool photos and how you can shoot cool photos too. Picked up this fish tank, 50 bucks at PetSmart, did the job, cleaned it off, filled it up with water.
That looks awesome. I'm psyched on that. You know what? I think I may have put too much in.
It looks best when you can see the line of water.
That only gives us this much room to see above the water.
I'm gonna push it as far forward as I can because I want that background to be as far away as I can because I want that black wallpaper to act as a straight black backdrop, which is why I chose to put it here. And now I need to light it. So because I don't have a wireless trigger, I wasn't gonna use actual flash photography, strobes or speed lights or anything like that. So I decided to just use video lights, constant light. So I mounted a 300D Mark I over top of the fish tank at high power. So I blasted that 300D, then I just grabbed an assortment, a myriad of aperture wireless lights to just basically surround the tank to give it as much light as possible. Why do I want to give it as much light as possible? I don't really want a super shallow depth of field when I'm taking these images. When you have that nice blurry background and the subjects in the foreground nice and crisp, that would be too hard. If something's falling into the water in different spots, sometimes it's falling here, 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 it's gonna be too hard to kind of nail that focus. So if I open up the aperture, letting lots of light in, that means my depth of field, my focus plane is gonna be much bigger. So no matter where we drop stuff in the tank, chances are it's going to be in focus. So that was my goal for this, but in turn, I need lots of light to do that.
Let's see if we can get this on the first round. All right, manual focus is locked. Happy with that. Try not to move, you tell me when. 3, 2, 1.
Now, if you don't have lights, if you're at home and you're thinking, Pete, I can swing the fish tank, I can do that. I have one, my friend has one, there's one in my basement. It's been in my basement for 10 years. 50 bucks for a fish tank, PetSmart. I'm sure you could probably get one for like 20 on Amazon if it survives shipping. But if you don't have lights, I would say get as close to a window as you can so that the tank is almost backed up right against the window on a really bright day so that all that natural light is coming into the tank. Hopefully that window doesn't have tons of busyness behind it because you'd end up having to Photoshop all of that stuff out of the background. But that is an option. In the last video, there was some feedback saying that yes, you only spent $30 on those items, but you also had a ton of equipment that equates to quite a bit more. And yes, that's absolutely true, but you don't need the exact same equipment that I'm using. You could get some of those shots with a phone on portrait mode with natural light and spend nearly nothing opposed to using the gear that I was doing. Don't let those things be a deterrent from you getting out there and being creative and taking dope shots like this. Maybe they're not exactly the same, but make them yours. Use what you got to make them you. That's the fun part about photography. Setting this set up once we had everything engulfed, what I noticed was a bit of a problem is all the bubbles started to kind of stick to the surface, the front, the bottom, and look like grains of sugar. So we were able to kind of squeegee some of those away.
That seems to be working. He's using his finger as a human squeegee to get rid of those horrible bubbles that are just making this not look good. So, thanks, man.
You're welcome.
What are my camera settings for snapping a photo like this? Well, let's think about it. Someone's taking an object and they're dropping it in the water. I need to be able to capture that as it falls within a second to the bottom. Now my fish tank isn't very deep and I've only got it about halfway full because I want to see that water line where we have no water, and I want to get that object just breaking through that surface. So I want to be shooting at an extremely fast shutter speed. I started off not paying attention, shooting around 100th, 1/25th of a second, and I was just getting blurriness.
And this is where you shoot thousands and thousands of images. Unless you get lucky and you nail it on the first one, then everyone dances and it's just a good time to be had.
The object would fall into the water. I'd have it on high speed mode, high frame rate, 12 frames per second.
Drop it. It's going front heavy, so it's falling forward.
Oh,
So it's just like hitting and instantly going straight
so I
down.
should just angle it backwards just a bit.
I think so.
That is where gear is going to help you. You could also spend way more time just trying to snipe it each time, which I used to do back in the day when I didn't have cameras like this. But on a high frame rate, at 125th of a second, it was just blurry. It got no detail.
It looks so clean there though. So I cranked the shutter from 4,000th to a 64. I'm gonna go right to 8,000.
Now it's getting darker because obviously that shutter is opening and closing so fast that less light is coming in. I didn't want to open my aperture up because I wanted that longer depth of field so that more was in focus. So I ended up pumping my ISO to about 3200 because I'm fine with shooting anywhere from 100 ISO to 6400 ISO without having any kind of grain be an issue or bother me if it's even there. With those settings, it just came down to timing. Having a friend of yours drop something in the water and you just do it over and over and over again until you get lucky and you hit something that you like. We are still trying to nail the shot. It's been about, you say an hour? Hour and a half. We'll get it. Perseverance always pays off. In our case, we used a myriad of different objects. Some fell faster than others. Some were just floating. Some wouldn't sink at all. Some sank too fast. But when you get that perfect frame, it looks incredible. Now it's important to say, I was shooting on a black background, so that made the water look really cool and crisp, and when the camera hits the water or any of the objects hit the water, all you're seeing is those nice bright bubbles that are lit with all the lights that we have looking nice and crisp and white, and it just looks incredible. If you had a busy background, maybe it depends on what you're shooting, maybe it depends on the theme of the objects that you're shooting, but for me, this black background just made it really studio-like, really crisp, and I loved that. Now, if you don't have a black background, head over to your local Staples or Home Depot, anywhere, get some cardstock, buy a piece of Bristol board or anything that's black, a garbage bag you could even use if you clamped it nice and taut, so that when you look through the fish tank, the background is black, and you're going to achieve the same results.
We got it. We didn't just get it, we destroyed it. We just made Insta360 look so bad and amateur, and I love every minute of it. I'm sorry guys, just, you should have, hired a professional to shoot your photos for your website. The camera might be great, but the photos, this though, nailed. Just nailed it so badly.
So you might be saying, like, Pete, how did you come up? Why did you even want to do this? Well, this isn't sponsored at all. I was actually reading about that new Insta360R. I went to their site and saw that exact photo of the camera dropping into the water, and it was faked. So they had like a picture of bubbles and water, but the camera was just photoshopped onto it. It was just, I know about photoshopping fake things. You've seen me put a mountain in the desert, which was my brightest idea, but I've done it. Okay, so I know what to look for. And this was just bad, it was just poorly done. So I thought to myself, I could do that 1,000 times better. Why don't we do that 1,000 times better? And why don't we do it and make a video about it so that everyone can do it 1,000 times better? Once you've found some photos that you like, in this case, I've gone through and selected just a handful. I'm going to star them hitting 5 on my keyboard, which puts 5 little stars at the bottom of the thumbnail so I know which ones I can come back to when I'm editing. Now, as you can see in some of these, I only really need to do some basic preliminary edits because we got it pretty close in camera. Now the goal with these was to make them kind of black and white looking. I don't really want lots of color in these. The only color I want in them is the color from the objects themselves, that being the red part of the bottom of the action cam, the green scales of the knife, the brass look, that gold shine from those dice as they fall through the water. Those colors I'm gonna keep, but any kind of color cast or anything else from the room or from the lights or from the objects themselves casting onto the water, I'm not really interested in. I want these to look more like fine art prints, preliminary edits. We're talking clarity, contrast, crushing the blacks. Those things are gonna get rid of all those little water dots, as we've been calling them, the grains of sugar looking bubbles that we don't want, because I feel like that just muddies up the picture. It just makes it kind of confusing, kind of messy, kind of sloppy. So we're gonna get rid of those later, but we can help ourselves by using the dehaze tool in Lightroom quite a bit. That's really gonna kind of crush down on those little white dots and remove it, cleaning up that image. And then I'm gonna open these photos up in Photoshop. Now, primarily, what I'm looking to do is make these look like very expensive fine art commercial photos. That's my goal with this. So, how I want to achieve that is by making them as clean and minimalist as possible, while when you look at the image, there's still an incredible amount of detail with the splash and the objects themselves. So how is that done? I'm gonna paint away all those little bubbles. So I can make a new layer, grab a soft paintbrush with a soft edge, make sure it's black, and I can just take my time now and paint through all those little bubbles until they're completely gone. Now, this is where tidiness counts. You want to zoom in as close as you can, and you really want to work around each individual bubble. It does take time. It's annoying, it's obnoxious, it's all of those things, but when you zoom out and you see the finished image opposed to how it looked, that is exceptional. I am super happy with these. Just as a little fun fact here, let's just take a screenshot of the Insta360 website and let's paste in one of those pictures here, and bam. How much better does that look? Come on, guys. If you want to license this, let me know. Or just hire a new photographer. All right, guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this format, if you liked seeing this style of video, kind of like the other one that we did on product photography recently, let me know in the comments below. We'd love to make more. Throw down your ideas. Always nice going through to see what you guys are looking for. And with that being said, hit the like button. If you like this video, hit the bell so that you're notified when I post goodness like this, fresh, tasty goodness like this. Subscribe if you aren't already, and I will see you. I'll see you in the next video, which is gonna be next week on Monday. I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.
We just dropped this vintage Minolta into the water. Do I feel bad? Yes. Was it broken? Yes. It's gonna just dry out and go right back on my shelf because it looks sick. I can feel it leaking out of here. But did I not just capture probably one of my favorite shots? Already just seeing it on camera that I've ever got. I'm gonna print it and I'm gonna frame it black and white, and it's going to look insane. Oh yeah, it's super wet. Does it still crank? Hang on. Oh, let's go. That's because it's mechanical. I would never take a photo again, but dude, it looks so good. Wait till you see the finished edited shot of this. Wait till you see it. Let's drop more things.